Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the vault. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. We know we get a ton of listens in the replay, so we know it'll be a bunch of people that will listen to replay and hit the like and hit the subscribe button to stay in tune with these pop-up episodes. This is actually the Tuesday episode that we've done for years now, Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I definitely want to appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. It's always appreciated. This here is the Vault, episode 430, Legalese. Definitely want to do this episode. It was a by demand episode, as they all usually are, based off consultations throughout the years. This particular conversation actually happened as of today, so very fresh in the mind when it comes to creating a minute, particularly about this word, how to operate in trusteeship, how to operate in life, knowing that there's a lot of things in life that you may not be born into or privy into, but in particular, there is a term called legalese, which we definitely want to be very abreast of, very aware of when it comes to trusteeship. We talked to some trustees and they were not familiar with this term legalese, and it's very important to be abreast of what is that we're talking about, whether we're talking about legalese or common colloquial information. Even talking to trustees about the legalese, they're going to come in and counter not that it's just legal terms, but they're financial terms. So, we're sitting in front of trustees and we're a wealth of knowledge, and you're coming at it from a different perspective, partially not just because of the words you're using, but the meaning of the words that you're using in general. When you're talking about common language, speaking and having conversations with people in not just high net worth investor environments, but financial environments, law environments, they're speaking what we would call the legalese. This conversation that we will be having here, uh, you know, very shortly. So we definitely wanted to have this conversation when we talk about trusteeship and what so many people ask, oh, well, or how versed do I need to be in what's called legalese? Definitely something that's important when you talk about trusteeship. Legalese is one of those things that, once again, most people are not privy into. Quite a few people may be, even in business, and may not be too familiar with the term legalese. So it's very important to be familiarized with the term, to operate in a path and a suggestion that says, hey, look, we're very familiar with this term. It's legalese. It's something that says, hey, we're aware of the meanings and from a legal perspective, from a law perspective, from a financial perspective, not just from a, hey, what's up? How are you doing? There are specific terms that are being used in the day to day when we talk to them, not just at a financial level, but at institutional level, at a national level, and how traditionally most public terms come from legalese. If the language that you're speaking is derived of Latin, they have a legal system that governs that language. The languages under it are a subderivative of the Latin language that conveys a legalese type mentality, creates encumbrances upon the language, ifs and thises and that's. So those are things that need to be searched in law. Ifs, those, thises and that's. Those are just terms to be very familiar with, because if it comes from Latin, it may have a different meaning in a law sense. A lot of people want to get a good grasp on this, not just in business, but in trusteeship in particular. And that's something that we go over in trustee training. So as you go through trustee training, you definitely get a good feel and a good sense for getting a better understanding, getting a better grasp of, okay, this is financial terms, financial terms. These are terms that not necessarily can trap you up, but they're terms that you want to know the definition in the financial perspective because there is a Barron's Financial Dictionary. They actually have a Barron's magazine which deals with business and deals with legalese. So being able to even read that magazine coherently is being aware of the term legalese. When we jump deeper into it, talking to trustees about these terms, the biggest thing is being humble, being student mentality, taking notes, always making it a point to search a word, because when you're reading over these things, people have been programmed with an elementary school education. If people even have post-secondary, perfectly fine. But have people been versed in what's called legalese, where essentially you could almost write out a contract that would sound coherent, uh, not just because you know these big fancy financial terms, partially just because you know how to keep a financial or a legal contract very simple, very plainly stated. So it's not a bunch of legal jargon or financial jargon that'll say, hey, this is very, we're gonna put all these different financial terms in here and make it hard for someone to read. Well, the harder it is for the opposite party to agree, is less agreement. So in terms of being able to come to terms, have agreement, countries definitely are meant to be left simple, left plain. When they're left simple and left plain, you get a lot more concession, a lot more agreement out of the contract. So, not in all cases, but you definitely err to caution that it is a big possibility that that is happening, which is, contracts that are very simple are going to get more agreement than, or tend to get faster agreement than things that are not. So, uh, when you see people that are creating these contracts nowadays, oh, I'm gonna learn legalese and I'm gonna create a security agreement against the name. Okay, you're gonna create a security agreement against the name, but did you write out the contract in legalese, or did you write out the contract plain and simply? How did you write out the contract? Oh man, I want to learn legalese because I want to learn how not to be defeated in the contract. Well, that comes from definitely learning legalese and definitely reading it quite a bit. you know, Talking to a senior trustee recently, and they're talking to another senior trustee, and this senior trustee is over 60 years old, still reading at least 3 cases a day is incredible. Not necessarily because they have to have the horsepower to read that much, but to know that they're able to digest that much content easily every single day shows that they're able to handle a high level of legalese caseload, legalese workload, legalese with these terms. They can digest them. They understand the terms. They really have a good feel for the words, not just from a colloquial sense, but actually from a financial sense and as well from a legal sense. And so it's interesting to see that um, as you move forward in your trusteeship, or your business, and you say, okay, wow, I'm in business, right? So do you know legalese? Are the lawyers running circles around you? Are the accountants running circles around you? That's where the market is right now. Is Are you the leader of your business? Are you the tail wagging the dog? Legalese is definitely an important subject to get your hands around. There's no legalese dictionary. It's not called that. It's called a law dictionary. It's not called a legalese dictionary. It's not called it. They have a financial dictionary to Barron's, but the legal dictionaries are a Black's Law, a Bouvier's. You're not. This is not a Merriam-Webster situation here. This is very much so a. Uh, You got to do is just go ask a judge, what law dictionary do you use to know the terms that you need to judge a case. If they have any questions about a case as they're going through a case, and it'll tell you what law dictionary they use. You just want to find out what edition. Sometimes they'll tell you a newer edition, but there's editions for a reason. So this is definitely important. The easiest answer is go to a judge, go to your local attorney, find out what law dictionary they have. Well, hey, where are you getting your legal terms from? And in turn, they'll be able to give you that legal dictionary or share that information with you, and go forward from there. Very much so important. We definitely want to talk about this because we have had trustees recently, and like we say, had situation as of recent that trustees just were not aware of these type of terms, but aware of the fact that there are different meanings for different terms in different venues and different jurisdictions. And for that reason, what your jurisdiction at home is not the jurisdiction in the public. There's a public and a private for a reason. What is the jurisdiction of the private? What is the jurisdiction of the public? These are conversations that are being had uh, amongst specific communities because they're specifically learned in what you call legalese. Traditionally, a lawyer's going to be definitely competent in legalese. Most of them are. If they go through an education that's focused on legalese, they know what the word legalese means. They know the term. Then when you get to your accountants, some of your accountants may be aware of what legalese is. Uh, because they've had contracts and they're doing things based off contracts, based off numbers are based off contracts. So uh, you'll be able to see that, and anyone else you deal with in the business is may or may not know what legalese is. So it's definitely important to be aware of this word. And then when not when you're just talking about one word, but when you're engaging with people in this environment, trusteeship or business in general, they definitely want to make sure that you're aware of your words and what is it that you're saying, and just so many different aspects of, okay, well, legalese is not just a word, it's actually almost a complete law communication system. This is how the lawyers communicate traditionally, is through this term, legalese. The contracts are written up in legalese. They speak in legalese. It's no way around it. You could almost say politicians speak in legalese. You don't want to say that they don't answer your questions directly, but you do want to say that uh, they definitely utilize these tactics. Is like asking, well, why are most politicians ex-lawyers anyways? It's because they understand what legalese is. Very important thing to understand in business, just having a grasp of it, and implementing your everyday business engagements. And so it's not legal advice, this is not financial advice, but we're having a conversation in the public about things that we talk to trustees that have successful businesses in the public, and they're not fully aware of this term. So we want to just put it out there for the public in the term that, hey, this is not a private term. Actually, it is a public term. This is a term that's being used because this is the public law system term there. It's called legalese. They use these legal terms that are different than mean your everyday conversation terms, and so in turn it's an actual language system. Now, once again, subsect of Latin, because the law system is based around Latin. When you talk about the law system that's in place or traditional Western countries, you're talking about something that definitely utilizes these terms, different type of terms. They're not. There's different words and they have different meanings than your everyday colloquial terms, which sometimes in traditionally these terms are going to be called legalese terms. You get into, let's give you a good, okay, there's a principal at a school, there's a principal in a financial term. That's legalese. It's plain and simple. Oh, it's a different definition for different things. Yes, principal in finance doesn't just mean a person that's managing something. They could also be managing a principal. So a principal manages principals. A principal could be a principal asset. They termed it that. So in term and when you engage in that environment, you have to be aware that this environment is giving you a term that's not, oh, a principal at a school. It's not. It's actually a principal of financial assets, and they're a principal of assets. And these are things that when you listen to it, you, oh wow, I have to know that full sense of the word. And that's the important part, is knowing the full sense of the word, not just, oh, it's a principal at a school. It's definitely not just a principal at a school. You know, and who can take on the term principal? Well, there's no real full definition of it, whether you know it or not. It's not. They don't have too many parameters around what qualifies someone to take on that term. There's no, you can read the definition, it's pretty general, and there's no, oh, you have to make this much amount of money to be called a principal. Oh, you have to have this much amount of money to be called a principal. No, you can just call yourself principal. You can use that term as a principal. And so, okay, if that term is able to be easily used, then it's not just the principal of a school, it's a financial term. So now that means it's not just a financial term, it's legalese. When you're sitting in a room and you're dealing with any type of case or anything of that nature, when you hear the word principal, you know immediately that's a. Are we talking a hard asset? Are we talking with a some amount of dollars? Or are we talking, a person when you're in a financial environment? Because it's legalese. We're not talking about a principal of a school in colloquial terms. In colloquial terms, you would say this person's a principal and they would be a principal of a school. If you say the term principal in a financial sense, it's a legalese term. So in turn, that means you're talking financial. Hey, yeah, X, Y, and Z. He's over financial. He's a principal over at X, Y, and Z Capital. He or she is a principal over at X, Y, and Z Fund. They're a principal. They're not just a school teacher principal. No, they're actually a asset manager, a legalese term, and so making yourself abreast of these terms will aid in your financial education greatly. Why? Because when you're now looking at financial information, particularly on the news, you can see the word mandate. Let's use that the next term. Mandate is not is not a forced term. It's a financial term. It's literally the beginning of a fund. They create mandates at the beginning of funds. They create mandates for funds. They have a mandate that states this is what the money is about to be used for, or this is what the money is supposed to be used for. That is a financial term. That is not oh, we're creating a mandate to force someone to do or not to do anything. That's not what it is. It's a financial term. So when you're looking at it in the public, traditionally, it's a financial term. It's a legalese term. Traditionally in the public, because in the private you can make up a lot of definitions and words on your own, whereas in the public they have a consensus. The consensus of a mandate in the public is it's a financial term. It's not a forceful term. It's not a it's not even a lawful thing. It's a kind of like a legal thing, quote unquote. It's legalese for financial term. Oh, the mandate meant this. No, the mandate is a financial thing. It's a financial directive to where money is to be allocated. That's the legalese, the downfall of either knowing or not knowing. That's the importance of knowing financial terms, and when we talk about legalese, this language system in general. So appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listen to replay. We definitely want to go over this information. We're definitely going to be going over some information with we got a webinar coming up here actually on the 19th of November here. Definitely going to go ahead and put that up there on the screen. But definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the Vault. We're definitely excited about our upcoming workshop that we have here on the screen, as you all can see. And so we're definitely going to make it a point to, just have a great webinar once again. Um, this webinar is going to be traditionally for our foundation trustees. Uh, we usually have, workshops for our foundation trustees. That's why it's free for them. But it is going to be uh, 350 for trustees that are non-trustees, because we're going to go over training on benefits of business trust, family trust, foundations. We're talking about um, different types of trust, because when you talk about trust in the environment, people always talk about, well, is it private or is it public? And when you talk about uh, foundations, you know, you're talking about public foundations, you're talking about private foundations. So we want to go ahead and not necessarily just clear the air up, but make it a point to share value with the trustees, particularly that are in the program that we've had already for years. So, that's kind of how that goes. Just sharing value with the trustees that we've dealt with for years. And so we'll open the doors up for trustees or people that may not be inside of the program, which is perfectly fine. Um, but definitely want to share this with people. Feel free to reach out. HFRN period vault at gmail.com. We definitely got to put that in the chat because it was just we're going through some things over here at the vault, and that's always business, um, as usual. But nevertheless, we're definitely excited about working with the trustees. All the trustees that are in our program definitely know about the webinar already, so we're just making it a point to let our people that are not going through the program it is what it is. So we look forward to it. The link will be sent out most likely a day before, or almost even a day of. It's a very sensitive information when we're talking to private families, and this is one of those things. It's always going to be private, focused on the families, and not just out here just trying to show off or anything like that. So we know what the inquiries will be about. It's mainly focused on the families, anyways. Uh, that's how it's always going to be. So we definitely look forward to the families that are going to be present in the room at that particular webinar. It's going to be something different where we're not in the room face to face, but we're definitely still going to be face to face through the computer. So I look forward to the families that reach out for the family webinar, private family, public versus private foundation webinar. It's definitely going to be a great one here. Look forward to hearing from everybody at that webinar. Uh, it's definitely going to be November 19th. It's going to be, some hours in the day. So we're going to be going over some things there. Look forward to the right people joining. Look forward to seeing you all there. We always have a great turnout. But once again, this is for the foundation trustees, anyways, that are already involved in the program. So we're always excited about that. That's the main thing is just having foundation trustees that are in the program already be ready. That's the main thing. So look forward to hearing from you all. Peace and joy. Feel free to reach out.